Hi everyone, welcome to the Archive of Sofia. My name is Amy. If it's your first time here, I would recommend checking out my intro playlist down in the description below. I also will have just started 2 other playlists as well that you could check out. One of the playlists is going to be a general one that has all the video readings that I have done in order, and the other will break out specifically Marcus J. Borg's 2 commentary books. I shared my intro video with many people from different backgrounds, and many people who went to my Bible college with me that I thought still followed the faith came back and said that they have had a very similar experience as well. So I just want to reiterate that this channel is meant as a safe space for those who are questioning and doubting to make those questions and state those doubts that might be scary to do in a more traditional church setting. Those who still follow Christianity or a completely different religion or have never even read the Bible before are also very, very welcome. I am hoping to get a respectful back and forth of different perspectives of the different books that we read. With that in mind, I do also understand and completely respect that for some who are going through a deconstruction phase of their faith, the Bible might still be very triggering. So if this does not feel right for you, please don't feel any pressure at all. Really, take what resonates and leave what doesn't. I also just want to say that regardless of one's belief, the responses to my intro videos have been overwhelmingly positive. I am fully aware that this topic that I am going through and doing is potentially a very controversial one. And so I really do want to emphasize that I want us to continue to maintain a positive and respectful atmosphere to this channel, regardless of different perspectives and interpretations of the books that we read. In this video, we are going to ease into our controversial topic because we are not starting with an actual sacred text, but a commentary on the Bible. We are going to be starting with Marcus J. Borg's Reading the Bible Again for the First Time. And the way I'm going to run this channel is I'm not going to plan ahead how much I'm going to read because I want to be able to feel and take however much time I need for whatever part of the book I am reading. So instead of going like, okay, for each video I'm reading a chapter, I'm gonna read for the length of a candle. This candle burns for about 50 minutes, and as I do time lapses, as I'm just reading and being quiet, you'll see that there's 5 chunks. So each space is about 10 minutes, so you'll kind of have an idea of how much time has passed in my reading. And as I am editing the videos, I will let you guys know ahead of time, this is how much will be in the next video. So hopefully for those who are reading along, you can read those same chunks. And so while you are watching the video, you can hear my perspective of what I read, but then down in the comments, you could give your own perspective of what you read. And if you don't read the book, that is totally fine as well. You can always make comments about what stood out regarding something that I said in the video, or reply to other people's comments as well, keeping in mind that we are maintaining a respectful and positive atmosphere on this channel. As I'm reading, the camera is not going to actually be on me, though I am going to be sitting in the same spot reading, but instead I am going to just have that candle so you can kind of watch as time goes. So I encourage you to light a candle as well if you're in a place where you have one and it is safe to do so, to light a candle with me, and take some deep breaths and clear biases and try to look at these texts with new and fresh eyes. So let's go light a candle and get settled in to do some reading. So I'm taking a few deep breaths, and I'm going to start reading the preface of Marcus J. Borg's Reading the Bible Again for the First Time. There's a conflict between two very different ways of reading the Bible. It is a conflict between a literal factual way of reading the Bible and a historical metaphorical way of reading it. The former is central to Christian fundamentalists and many conservative evangelical Christians. The latter has been taught in seminaries of mainline denominations for the better part of a century. Growing up and going to college, I definitely was taught the literal factual way of reading the Bible. And in college, it was actively taught to us that the historical metaphorical interpretations were watered down versions, basically. I am really kind of taking this channel as my opportunity to read the Bible again for the first time in a historical, metaphorical way. To say the obvious, the book reflects my own subjectivity. There is no point in pretending objectivity as if I, or anybody, could have a vantage point outside of one's own personal and cultural history. And that is part of why I want to share this to YouTube, because I come at the books with a particular background, but everyone else has a different background than me, different experiences. And so the way I think and view and see different texts is going to be different than others. And I'm really excited to listen to what others have to say. So the short preface was really just kind of about the author's background and an overview of the book. Part 1, Foundations. Chapter 1, Reading Lenses, Seeing the Bible Again. Like I was just mentioning a little earlier, here's another quote. All of us, whether we use reading glasses or not, read through lenses. And my interpretation of that is that we read through our own experiences. We read through with our own biases, with how we were raised. And again, just reiterating the same thing, I really look forward to reading other people's perspectives. Yet not all Christians agree with the need for new lenses. Many vigorously defend the older way of seeing the Bible. For them, what seems to be at stake is nothing less than the truth of the Bible and Christianity itself, which is exactly why what I'm doing with this channel could be considered so controversial. I was raised and explicitly taught to see the Bible as inerrant and infallible, but I am ready to try to see it more from a historical, metaphorical perspective. And I'm really excited to continue reading this book and have him help me view the Bible through a different light. From one point of view, allowing non-literal interpretation opens the door to evading the Bible's authority and making it say what we want. The thing is, I don't think there is a single interpretation that is necessarily the correct one. And even these literalists take parts of the Bible and ignore parts. Like a common example is in Leviticus, where it talks about not eating shellfish. And that's completely ignored, and it's totally fine to do that now. Yet a couple verses later it says, supposedly, because the translation is not very clear, but a couple verses later it says homosexuality is a sin. And people, even those who are from the literal interpretation background, really still cherry pick and choose what parts they want to believe and what parts they don't. And that was a huge part of me walking away is, oh, well, if I don't believe all of it, hook, line, and sinker, then I'm not a good Christian and I can't believe any of it. And I don't agree with that anymore. And I'm going through this whole book project to feel and determine myself what I want. And so, yes, I am intentionally setting this project to cherry pick the parts that I like and to put aside the parts that I don't resonate with. Yeah, it's. He's saying here literalists typically see themselves as taking the Bible with utmost seriousness and often criticize modern to liberal Christians for watering it down, which is what I said earlier about this already. It's that the historical metaphorical one is watering down the Bible. And that's, even as a kid, I remember being like, oh, why can't we just love everyone? And the comeback was, oh, well, that's just watering down the true love of God. The true love of God also has discipline and all this other things. And it just makes me so sad. How can love and accepting others be watering down whatever? I'm getting riled up already, and I'm 5 pages into this book. The conflict about the Bible is most publicly visible in discussions of 3 issues. First, in some Christian circles, creation versus evolution is the primary litmus test of loyalty to the Bible. The second issue is homosexuality. A third lightning rod for the conflict is contemporary historical Jesus scholarship. I am excited about getting to the creation story, which will be the first thing we get to after getting through a couple chapters in this commentary. I was raised to believe in creation, and as I got older, particularly late high school into college, I started to more believe in creation through evolution, which I will probably talk about that more when we actually get to Genesis itself. Yeah, he's talking about how a lot of churches emphasize sin and forgiveness. And it really is true. With me and how I was raised, we are all bad people and we need to be saved. And I struggle with that to this day. This overwhelming sense that I'm just inherently a bad person. And I don't agree with that anymore. I don't think I'm a bad person. And internally, oh my God, I'm still, even now, I am feeling like this whisper of, yes, you are, you're a bad person. And it just because I know something in my head, I know I'm not a bad person. I have had this indoctrinated into me for so long that I still have this emotional internal response that, yes, I am, I need to be saved, and I can't trust myself. I need to follow God in the Bible. And that's a lot of what this process has been for me, is breaking that down. And I'm still working on this, clearly, but working on believing that that's not true. I can trust myself. I can trust myself. Yeah, he is setting the stage and defining right now in this chapter a more generally considered traditional view of Christianity. And it is very similar to what I grew up with. And he is setting the stage to then compare it to this newer interpretation. Newer is a wrong term, but a different interpretation. Instead of the literal translation, the more traditional view, or what is considered a traditional view, versus the historical metaphorical view of the Bible and Christianity. Oof, he is pushing buttons here. Does it make sense that the creator of the whole universe would be known in only one religious tradition, which, fortunately, just happens to be our own? If one must be a Christian in order to be in right relationship with God, then there is a requirement. By definition, then, Even though we may use the language of grace, we are no longer talking about grace. Yes, this setup, this kind of the more traditional view that he's kind of setting up as a comparison, I relate to very much of this and how I was raised and taught in my Bible college. Spirituality is the experiential dimension of religion. Stories can be true without being literally and factually true. And that makes me think of a lot of our fairy tales and fables, right? It may not actually have happened in reality, but there are still important morals to the stories that make it true. And so that's a lot of how I plan to be reading a lot of these books. I'm not here to argue if these things are factually true or not, but to feel and determine what are the morals and points of these stories and which one of those have significance to me. And I see my candle just went out, but I have about a page left to this chapter, so I am going to keep on going anyway, just to finish this up real quick. Yeah, to continue what I was saying, metaphors and metaphorical narratives can be profoundly true even if they are not literally or factually true. And this is a central way of seeing and reading the Bible that he talks about in this book. Yes, his final point that he's making in this chapter is that being a Christian isn't about believing in the Bible, but developing a relationship with God. And that concludes my reading for today. Thank you everyone for listening to this video. I look forward to reading the comments that you post down below. I hope to see you in future videos.